What's going on, fellow freelancers? Coming at you with another Anthem video. Today we're going to be talking about new information, including Cataclysms, rare content, social competitions, content modifiers, and Endgame. Stay tuned. Okay, so starting this off, we have what they're calling Cataclysms, which are basically funky events that happen in the world caused by the once dormant Shaper technology. As you know, the Shaper technology is strewn throughout the world and occasionally pops on and causes some chaos. We experienced a small taste of this with the Storm event that they brought out on the last day of the demo this last Sunday. Mike Gamble went to say, and I quote, "A couple people asked, so I'm going to clarify. That thing today was Shaper technology starting to go off the rails. Weird things pop up, more dangerous creatures fill the lands, but oh no, that was not the worst it gets." He then went on to say, "This is just a tease, and that's all I can say for now." Casey Hudson also tweeted, "Yep, if you went out in the storm that formed today and fought some titans, then you've experienced the mini event that we added to this weekend's demo. Just a small tease of some of the things we'll be doing when the Anthem game goes live." Ben Irving also tweeted in with, "What you're seeing in the game right now is just a small hint of some of the big things we're planning for Anthem's live service. More to share on that soon." So this is just a small taste of what they can do with the world. They can turn on a random event at any time that they want, whether it be minor, moderate, or major. We're not 100% sure exactly what that's going to entail. It could be 20 different things, it could be 100 different things, it could be 3 different things. We really don't know. It's completely up to them. But the potential for something like that is there, and it's great. When asked about social competition, Ben Irving said this, and I quote, "There's a whole lot of stuff to do, and the way we've tried to plan it is by the time people are kind of working through content up to level 30, we will have more things to drop and more things to incentivize play, including things like, we're a PvE-centric game, but we believe in social competition. So beyond the content, the loot, the progression, the exploration, it's fun to compete in a friendly way with your friends." And so we're not announcing what any of those things are yet, but we have some ideas that I think will promote that kind of help, making sure players have things to do. Now, a couple of the things that have been rumored are things such as leaderboards, which have been mentioned before, as well as special events, which may or may not act as social competition. Ben then continued with, "We do believe in aspirational content. I think in other games you can call that raids. So we do have plans for aspirational content and live service. We're not talking about that and what the details are just yet, but we do recognize the idea that, hey, you want to do something a couple times a week with a group of friends that is hard, that really pushes you, and then the rest of the time you'll do all the other parts of the game to kind of get yourself ready for the next time you go into inspirational content." So what I get from that is they're going to drop these events, whether it be a cataclysm or a social competition or a mini event. You'll do normal game stuff and then you'll get interrupted with that for some special event. You'll run the special event. Maybe you're not high enough yet. Maybe you are. So it's going to be something to toss in there, put in, pull out over and over again so that you can keep things fresh, so to speak, so the game doesn't feel stale. Aside from the things we know, Cataclysms, Shaper Storms, aspirational content, social competition, there's also been some talk about rare content, such as endless dungeons, horde mode. There was even a kind of joke about a secret grab-it level, and of course the speculation revolving around PvP. Regarding factions, they're basically going to act like reputation that you can earn within each faction, which is very MMO-esque, which is kind of cool for fans of MMOs. To have something like that in a non-MMO game is kind of interesting. Mike Gamble had this to say. Have we talked about reputation challenges? No? Okay. Arcanists, Freelancers, and Sentinels represent the factions. Currently, smiley face, in Anthem. Doing missions, making conversation choices, doing free play events all give you special points for each faction. Getting those points applies to challenges, which unlock crafting blueprints and other goodies. They also change the look of your personal Fort Tarsis. When asked, can you earn reputation with more than one faction or max them all out, Mike Gamble's answer was simply yes and yes. So apparently you can do quests for each of the factions, earn faction points, and then max them all out over time. Another question they asked was, if you increase reputation with one faction, will it decrease with another? Or are they completely separate so you can befriend them all? Mike Gamble's response was, in conversations, you'll have to make choices for one faction or another, but you can make up for it by running free play or missions. So it sounds like you're going to be given choices, like in a dialogue, you've got to choose between one faction or another, and you may lose some faction with one to gain faction with another, or reputation rather. But then you can go and do other missions for the one you lost reputation in to gain it back. So that's kind of cool. Mike also went on to say that there are 3 challenges for each of the main factions in the launch game. Now, they say in the launch game, and they imply all these smiley faces and little hints. It implies that there will probably be more challenges per faction, or possibly even new factions altogether. But again, we won't know anything solid on that until either we're told or the game launches. So, launch content is as follows: a full main story with amazing cutscenes and performances, 3 Fort Tarsis agents, as stated before with the factions, each with a full optional arc of missions. Some don't open up until after the main story. Free play full of world events and variants in a world we can change at a moment's notice. Fort Tarsis itself, full of characters to talk to and make decisions with, continuing after the main story is done. 6 optional missions related to the critical path. The demo showed 3. So now we know that those 3 Matthias missions from the demo were actually optional missions that are just related to the critical path or main story and not actually part of the main story. And then he goes on to say, plus much more. There's a ton of content in Anthem, and that's all before Endgame. So that's nice to hear, because I know there's a lot of people worried about the Endgame, as well as whether or not there will be enough content in the game to sustain it at launch, which there seems like there's going to be more than enough. Regarding the launch, there's also been several tweets about fixes to the game. Mike Gamble tweets here, lots has been fixed since the demo for main game. Nearly all of the ones I've seen. Of course, we will ship with some bugs that will only show up in the retail version too, but we will fix them, promise. I mean, let's face it, anybody who's expecting any game ever to launch without at least some bugs needs to stop gaming, because every game has bugs. That's just common sense. When asked, will the upcoming fixes made to the full version be ready on the 15th for Premier players, Mike Gamble responded, many for the 15th, many for the 22nd. Ben Irving even weighed in on this, saying, looking at it, doing some overall balance stuff for launch 15th. Another question was, I hope you guys fix the ultra annoying disappearing mobs. It is extremely frustrating to be fighting against a powerful enemy for it to just vanish into thin air. It happened to me the whole time during the demo. Mike Gamble's response was, we think we fixed this on the main game. Need more testing to make sure. You can blame me for that one. Programmer asked to put it into the demo, but we didn't want to take the extra risk as the fix came in rather late. So as you can see, they are going to be releasing several fixes probably several patches in the first couple days to the first week or two, which is pretty standard in any game, especially one that's this huge. So expect that. Things will be fixed. There will be some bugs. They got to iron out some bugs. That's just common sense. Everyone knows there's always going to be some wrinkles with any new game. Now, moving on to semi-rumors. There has been some talk from the BioWare Dems referring to content modifiers. Now, we have not a whole lot of information on these, but they're basically things that change the overall content experience. These can be things like killing enemies damages you, or killing one enemy makes all the enemies around it stronger. There could be things like using guns hurts you, or heals the enemies. This can also be elemental, like if you use fire against a fire enemy, it will heal them. But if you use ice, it will kill them faster, vice versa. This can also be things like combos are the only things that will do damage, or guns are the only thing that will do damage, or melee. So there's a lot of different things that they can do. I'm not saying any of these things are going to happen or not going to happen. I'm just giving examples as to what content modifiers could be. Since this game has dynamic generation, it allows them to do a lot of unique things. I mean, even when you do free play or the dungeons or actual missions with the dynamic generation, that means that enemies, events, turrets, etc. can spawn in random or even multiple different places and times. So you run a dungeon a stronghold 3 or 4 times in a row, it could be semi-different. Now, the strongholds themselves aren't going to be vastly different, but the fact that it's not exactly the same every time, so you can't really memorize the layout and then just plow through it every time, is cool. That's refreshing, because most games, it's just the same, static, all the time. So, rushing into, like, say, Tyrant Mine, and rushing off to the left, you're used to something being there on the left. Well, the fact that that can change, or there could be something completely different there, it makes you have to think on your feet. You have to change your potential tactics on the fly, and that can make for a lot more unique and dynamic gameplay. So that's very exciting. Also, we have daily, weekly, and monthly challenges, though we don't know a whole lot about those outside of like the contracts, legendary contracts, faction missions, stuff like that. It's exciting to know that they're putting in these even weekly and monthly challenges, so I expect there to be some really nice rewards and decent difficulty revolved around those. As far as Endgame is concerned specifically, they have already mentioned that they're working on various different things, new story content, new content packs, new strongholds, all that fun stuff, and they're hoping to get these things rolled out. They did announce that they were going to have a roadmap coming out at some point, either before launch or at launch, so that we have a general idea of how things will unfold moving forward. But the fact that they're aware that some people are going to level faster than others, and they do have a set plan, or an apparent set plan in place to keep new content rolling out, which they've already stated that all story and DLCs will be free. Expect to see that. Now, one thing that people seem to be confused with is that DLC and expansions are not the same thing. So just because story content, DLC content, etc. will be free does not mean expansions will be, if they decide to put them in. Take games like ESO, Final Fantasy XIV, DC Universe, games like that, for example. Granted, those are all MMOs and shouldn't technically be compared to a game like Anthem, but I'm using them because it matches with what I'm talking about. They release story content, like 14 releases story content, add-ons, even extra dungeons completely for free. Then they come out with their full-blown expansions, which they charge for. Same with ESO, and the same for DC Universe and other games like it. So I would imagine, and anybody with common sense would also think the same way, that if they do decide to roll out a large content expansion, that it stands to reason they would charge for it. It just makes sense. They'd be stupid not to. So just for you people who think that DLCs are expansions, you are very mistaken. DLC is just downloadable content. Expansions are expansions. They are literally gigantic add-ons to the game. Some of them are so big they may as well be standalone games all on their own. So do not confuse DLC with expansions. Now, mind you, they have not mentioned squat about expansions, so there's no guarantee there's even going to be one. However, with a 10-year plan in place, it stands to reason there'd be at least a couple. So be prepared for expansions, or at least something in that ballpark. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe. Definitely share. Get that information out there. Maybe even consider hitting that bell so you know when new content drops, as it does regularly. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time on the road to Anthem.